Hello VC. So today I wanted to talk about one of the greatest misunderstandings, in my opinion, about 90s rock music. We're talking about one of the greatest psychedelic rock indie noise bands ever. We're talking about a band that had many different incarnations, despite the lineup being the same. This is the first area of Verve. Verve, before they became the Verve, with their second album or their third album, I don't remember. This is their first single. It was released in 1992, in March, I believe. They had been playing around Manchester and the UK quite a lot and gained quite a dedicated following because of their live performances being amazing. I can attest to that because I saw them live in '93 opening for Smashing Pumpkins, and no one cared about the Smashing Pumpkins after Verve played. I got to interview them back then and get some inside info. So the Verve, before they became this britpop band, they were like four guys, basically Richard Ashcroft singing, a really good singer, and Nick McCabe on the guitar. The bass player is really good, the drum is good, but these two guys, they are the heroes of that story, or the villains. So as you can hear on their second single, in my opinion their best one, Gravity Grave, this has nothing to do with the Bittersweet Symphony single that launched their career in the mainstream. This is pure ambient psychedelia, a little folkish in a way, noise as well. The first single is good, it's really good, but this is something altogether different. This was produced by a certain Barry Clemson, who didn't have any big credits to his CV up until then. He did a few things for Seacat, Slab, but right before that he did produce this the spiritualized album Laser Guided Melodies, which is an absolute wonder of noise shoegaze album from former co-frontman of the Spaceman 3, Jason Pierce. This also features, by the way, someone on keyboards, organ, who would later marry Richard Ashcroft. So there's another connection. Like, it's all, see, it's all tied up. So this EP must have. The next one, She's a Superstar, must have, with the B-side feel absolutely stunning. These are non-album tracks, by the way, because when these first three EPs, singles, gather enough attention to get them signed, or signed to an album deal, Storm in Heaven, which is a reference to LSD 60s culture in America, As you can see also, there's a theme here, a visual theme, like the artwork. It might remind you of something that is much more famous and popular, Oasis. Basically the guy who did all the graphics for Oasis, he started in the 80s, but he found his style with Verve, with these singles. That's where he really started. And Manchester connection, Oasis, they're friends, Richard Ashcroft and Oasis. So basically they kind of stole him. This guy called the Michael Spencer Jones, the photographer, but the concept of all the pictures and the design was done by this guy called Brian Cannon. Microdot, I believe. So that's also part of psychedelia history. So this album came out, and then it was produced by John Leckie, who famously produced XTC magazine, but more to his credit, the Stone Roses. And he acknowledged that this album, he begged the band to produce them, because he heard the first few singles and I need to be part of this story. And the album is good, it's really good. The single, there's two singles, really good ones. Blue, with good B-sides, and Slide Away. Let's listen to Slide Away. Oh, this is fantastic. This is more radio friendly, but still, John Leckie said that like 70% of the record, like 7 songs out of 10, were just jams in the studio. Nothing was. They came with 3 sketches of songs, and the rest was just improvised there. And he also described that he didn't expect that recording to be that nightmarish, because as much as Nick McCabe is such a great guitar player, like a genius in my opinion of British guitar history, he was a nightmare. He couldn't play twice the same thing. He had no interest. So the whole affair left them a kind of weird taste. Like they don't think they managed to actually do exactly what they wanted to do. Kind of, and the album is great, but the EPs before that are even better. And what's really special about it is that it's really unique. It's very difficult to. You can't really say it's shoegaze. It's not directly indie either. It's not directly psychedelic rock in the traditional sense, because it's all that together. And Nick McCabe was so unique with this music is that he's not about the solos and the melodies, he's about textures and sound. Like you can feel that his sound is very different from the guitar sound of that time. Lots of like space echo, tape delay, string reverb. This is really spatial music, and the guitar is kind of in the background in a way, but so is the vocal. The bass is driving everything. And but as cool as the bass lines are, it's really these odd atmospheres and tones and harmonies that the guitar makes. Because the voice, the singing is kind of the same. Like it's barely songs, it's just musings, and even if the technique of Richard Ashcroft is pretty good and is complementing this pretty well in my opinion, it really is about Nick McCabe in my opinion. On Blue, the other single of the album, get, let's see. Let's listen to B-side, just to check how. This was really at odds with everything that was about to happen in Britain with the britpop, Blur, Oasis and all that. And even if this album I wouldn't say like now if you look it up online you will read that it got mixed to good critics reviews. It's not true. Yeah, it was actually deemed as out of touch with what was going on back then. I remember reading reviews in France, in Sweden, in the UK papers. Some of it was like, oh, it's interesting, but it was really going somewhere different. And even if it was not unsuccessful, the next album of theirs was a complete new direction. I hated it. I thought it was terrible, and I still do. Like a kind of northern soul, but that had really nothing to do with the strength of the band. Nick McCabe, it was moderately successful, probably more than this, but that was the end of Verve in its first incarnation and the most interesting one in my opinion. Yeah, that single is pretty cool as well. But so what was the legacy of this specific time, this specific area of Verve before they became the Verve, and also the last part of their career that was more like Coldplay. Of course, as you can hear, this music was heavily influenced by drugs, and there was lots of problems between the band, which also prompted them to break up, get back together, and change their style, because this music was under a lot of drugs, a lot of smoking, and even if it's beautiful, there's kind of like a fractured aspect to it, like a disconnect with reality, like an idea of like escaping. And Richard Ashcroft, he told me like he wanted to be a football player, and even if in the interviews he says now, like, or he said since then that yeah, he got over it and wanted to become a musician. Back then he told me that injuries, like he broke his leg and like there was no future for him in football, so the only solution was succeeding with music. But basically he became a monster in a way in the band, or that's my take at least. And or he wanted to go somewhere else, whereas Nick McCabe was basically the spirit of this early Verve. Which traces do we have of that? Well, you can find Nick McCabe's strongest input post first Verve area is to be found on this album, Neotropic, I believe her third album. This is a fantastic album, totally underrated, featuring Jarbo from the Swans, people from Low, Nick McCabe from Verve. But Neotropic is Reese Melson, a woman producer that was doing kind of very strange ambient trip hop, collage electronica, on Ninja Tune, and this was sorry, going so far further from her earlier efforts that she was signed to an offshoot of Ninja Tune called N-Tone, and I think there's 4 songs on this that are co-written by Nick McCabe, including this, and one of the best ones. Oh, they're all good. The whole album is fantastic. I say fantastic a lot, don't I? This one is more like based on samples of Nick McCabe's guitar, but it's really cool song, or not like track, whatever you want to call it. When it starts. Oh yeah, I put it. Sorry. There it is. So yeah, Verve reunited in 2007 or 8 because Richard Ashcroft heard that Nick McCabe was back to doing music and with the drummer of the band. So he basically, out of kind of weird jealousy probably, he thought, let's get back together. That didn't last. Like barely 1 year, 1 album, nothing noteworthy, nothing back to where they should have gone. So Nick McCabe, to the better of my knowledge, after that, the only thing that he did was this. Black Submarine. A double LP. Totally, I've never read anything about it. I don't think it was noticed by anyone. Of course, it was noticed by the few people. I did, but because I was looking for new entries in Nick McCabe's discography. Pretty good inner sleeve art. And yeah, it's more rock and roll pop, but it's really good. So yeah, Verve, a band that I guess most people have the wrong idea about, wrong perception, and maybe the people who listen to them in the early days, maybe they either misunderstood it or just weren't into that kind of stuff. I know that it's been since kind of this part of their discography is being kind of rewritten as shoegaze. I think it's doing it a disservice because it's, as much as I like shoegaze, I really like the fact that this early Verve is unique. It will appeal to people who are into shoegaze, hopefully, but it's pretty good in its own way. It doesn't need to be part of that. Yeah, this is really good. Anyways, let's keep it under 20 minutes. I hope this was interesting, maybe enlightening if you're into that kind of music, and if you're not, sorry. I know I've been talking a lot about rock and roll, post-punk and stuff like that lately, more than jazz and avant-garde, but maybe next I will talk about disco or rai or hip-hop. Nah, I'll get back to avant-garde for sure, but until then, I hope everyone is good, and that this was a little bit enlightening, and I will just finish it. This was telling you, get this, either the CD single or the EP. This is really worth for your while. Such a beautiful cover, and yeah. Because yeah, Gravity Grave, the track on this EP, this is the extended version that you need. The regular version is good, but this one has got like a mid song solo with get it. All right, have a nice whenever it is for you when you're watching this. Bye.